So we are discussing the Newtonian perturbation, okay, and we check that if you have no gravity, static universe, you put a little bit perturbation, things oscillate. You put gravity, then what it does is that depending upon the scale, which is called the gene scale, and depending upon each scale is whether it is greater than the gene scale or it is smaller than the gene scale, either it will oscillate or it will go exponentially. Now if you now put the expanding universe, okay, then we have the same thing, that oscillation. One oscillation, the thing is that the play between the pressure perturbation, which is the C square term, which is from the pressure perturbation, and there is this 4 pi g rho delta, that term that's coming from the Laplacian of phi, which is the gravitational potential. So there is a interplay between the pressure, which try to things take apart, and there is the gravitational pull, which is due to the attraction of the gravity. But now again, in the expanding universe, you have a friction term. This is basically due to the expansion of the universe. Fine. So here your gene's length is now a time dependent function because the universe is expanding, and also now you have a friction term. And then we solved yesterday. So we are doing the Newtonian perturbation, OL inside the Hubble radius, and then yesterday we solved that if you have just matter or cold dark matter, means dark matter or dark matter plus baryon is very small. So then we checked that, we showed that D, the delta M of the dark matter actually, so we can ignore the pressure perturbation because the matter doesn't have any pressure. We can ignore the pressure perturbation. Then I solved that equation. So my equation was in the Fourier mode, the equation was so this was the equation in general that we got for a case that you have a fluid Newtonian limit in an expanding background. You have a small perturbation on that fluid, and these Fourier modes are all these things. Okay, so we decompose them in the Fourier modes. This C square comes from the Laplacian of pressure, that pressure perturbation, and this term comes from the gravity, the Laplacian of phi. So this is the equation that we got. Okay. And then we said that if you have matter, okay, so for matter there is no pressure perturbation because pressure is 0 for matter, so there is no pressure perturbation. So for matter, this term is 0, this C square is 0, so this term is 0, okay. So we have only but now this is matter dominated, so this rho bar is just the background matter universe, okay, delta K is 0. Now one thing you should notice that now in this equation there is no K. In the general equation there is a K because there is a pressure perturbation. Pressure perturbation, whenever there is a pressure perturbation, depending upon the interplay between these two terms, you get a scale, corresponding scale, which is the gene's length. And depending upon each scale, whether they are greater than the gene's length or smaller than the gene's length, they will grow or they will oscillate. Fine. But once your pressure perturbation release, so there is no pressure perturbation, so this term is actually 0. Fine. So all scale will evolve in the same way because in this case there is no K dependence. So all the delta K for any mode, they will evolve by the same equation. They will evolve by the same equation. So that is for the matter. When you calculate the deltas, they don't depend upon K. Whatever the initial K dependence just comes from the inflation, whatever way you produce the primordial fluctuation, that K dependence goes through. Okay? Because this equation, when you evolve to the expanding universe, this equation doesn't contain any K. So each K mode, each delta K will evolve in the same way, same time dependence or A dependence or Z dependence, whatever you call it, fine. And this we solved last time, okay, because in the matter dominated, rho goes as a to the power minus 3, this term goes as a to the power minus 3, a goes as t to the power 2/3, so h goes as 2 by 3 t, so this is 4 by 3 t. You can solve it, it's just an easy solution, and the solution I just said that there is a growing mode and there is a decaying mode, so anytime there is a growing mode and decaying mode, and we are interested in the growing mode, so growing mode goes as a. Okay, so it just for the matter in the sub-horizon scale, if you have a matter, if you put a matter, there is no dark energy, nothing, so it just grows with the linearly with the scale factor. Okay, and from here also we showed that we have our Poisson equation. So this, if you take the Fourier mode, so this gives you basically minus k square phi, and this is 4 pi g rho bar a square delta k, and then from here we showed that this evolve as a to the power minus 3, this is a square, and this delta k evolved as a, so your time dependence all get cancelled because a cube and 1 by a cube get cancelled, so your phi means minus k square phi is just a constant. So the gravitational potential remain constant throughout the time, throughout the matter dominated universe, okay, in the sub-horizon scale. But this was all this calculation we are doing below the Hubble radius, fine, in the sub-horizon scale. We will show, we will not do the full relativistic calculation, but we will show today itself by a very back of the envelope calculation that the gravitational potential in the super horizon scale also remains constant both in the radiation and in the matter domination. So the gravitational potential in the radiation dominated remains constant, gravitational potential in the matter dominated remains constant in the super horizon scale. As it enters the sub horizon scale, it remains constant also in the matter dominated regime. And if we have time, we will show that how it evolves in a radiation dominated epoch in the sub horizon scale. It actually oscillates, okay, so that we will see. So this part is fine. So now I am doing, so as I said, sub-horizon scale, matter dominated universe, the growth or the decay, the growing mode goes as scale factor and the gravitational potential remains constant, fine. So let's see what happens in the, for the matter perturbation, because that actually clump, photon cannot clump. So what happens for the matter perturbation in the radiation dominated epoch. So you have a radiation dominated epoch where radiation dominates, matter is subdominant, they don't back react to the expansion, so only the expansion is going by the radiation, but there is some small matters are there, there is some small matter is there. So how they clump in the radiation dominated, okay. So firstly how radiation behaves if you have a perturbation in the radiation, how they behave in the radiation dominated. In the radiation dominated, I put some radiation, I put some perturbation there, let's say how they behave, okay. So now we already told you that we are in the sub-horizon scale, so we are now in the scale which is smaller than the DH, the length scale are smaller than the DH, and we also from here we know that the length scale which are smaller than the gene scale, they will oscillate, they will not grow. The length scale which are bigger than the gene scale, they will grow, fine. So let's calculate what is the length, the gene scale for radiations, fine. Okay, so if you have a radiation dominated epoch, what is the corresponding gene's length, okay. So the gene's length definition, if you remember, this was CS rho bar, but it is a radiation dominated, so this is rho r, fine. Now rho r goes as, how it goes? As a scale factor 1 by a4, fine. So this goes as 1 by a4, so this goes as a4, so this goes as a square, fine. So this goes as, so the gene scale goes as a square, fine. Now let's calculate how the Hubble radius goes. So dH, which is 1 by h, fine. Now in the radiation dominated, A goes as t to the power half. So h always goes as 1 by t. So 1 by h goes as t. So t to the power half is a, so t is a square. Fine. So these also goes as a square. Fine. So both the Jeans length and the Hubble radius goes as a square. So now I am considering scales which are below Hubble radius. So all the scales are also below the Jeans scale. Is it clear? Both these goes as a square, and I am here considering case which is sub-horizon scale. So all the scales that I have my case, they are smaller than the DH. Fine. And it's because DH and lambda j scale similarly, so all these scales are also smaller than the lambda j also. Fine. And I know that in the lambda j, if the scales are smaller than the lambda j, it will not grow, it will oscillate. Fine. So in the radiation dominated, nothing will grow, it will just oscillate, and if you take some long time, if you average over there, it will zero.
So how do you get this?
Which one?
Lambda is less than d.
Lambda j and dh is the same?
Yes.
I am doing in the sub-horizon scale. All these equations are valid in the Newtonian limit, which is sub-horizon scale. So which is this scale. So his lambdas are less than dh, because that is the approximation that I have used, and dh and lambda j are the same. So these are also smaller than Jeans scale. Fine.
But sir, for this both has to be equal at the start of rest.
Both has to be equal means?
Lambda j and dh.
Nee, there is, means you are saying that some values, small values, fine. So that small values, because ultimately things are getting stretched, fine. So it very quickly be inside the Hubble horizon. That means they are small. This is this scales like same way, fine. So if you have a small value, you can always, it just goes to the inside the Hubble horizon. Okay. So important is that how it behaves actually, because this decreases similarly. So that's why radiation dominated thing, radiation, it doesn't grow. I can ignore the anything, means that doesn't grow. Okay. So now, so having this in mind, so I can always ignore the growth in the radiation, okay, because this is always oscillate in the sub-horizon scale. Now I want to see that now in the radiation dominated, I put a matter, how it evolves. Okay. Now for the matter, this terms is always 0, because the pressure perturbation is not there. Now where from this term comes? This term comes from the case where you have this equation, fine. This term comes from this equation, fine. That term comes from that equation, fine. Now when you have a region, a part of the universe, when you have both radiation and matter, then the total gravitational potential, there will be contribution from both matter and both radiation. Okay, so here the contribution will be from both matter and from both radiation. So here your term will be 4 pi g a square. If I take, term will be rho m bar delta m plus rho r bar delta r. Fine, because you are in the matter radiation dominated, so their radiations are also there, and I am also considering matter, so there is a contribution from matter also, fine. But just now I showed that the radiation component, the delta, sorry. But just now I showed that the contribution coming from the radiation is 0, because the delta r is just oscillate, and sometime you can just average it over to 0, fine. So this contribution is not there, fine. But here, so now what you have over here, so if I do this thing, so I just write this equation. So here I can just have only rho m and delta mk, fine, because the radiation component I can ignore. I can ignore this term because matter, this c square I can ignore. But remember, my h is actually coming from the radiation, means you have both rho m and rho r. Rho m is very small, it doesn't contribute, so this h is basically radiation dominated, fine. Now I can solve it, but there is a nice way to write the equation in terms of other parameter and see that how it behaves, okay. So I can write this equation, means now I take this part to 0 and this part is now only contribute from rho m bar and delta m. Okay. Now I change the variable to eta log a, which is sometimes called the e-folding. Okay. Eta log a, because a is e to the power eta. If I change in variable, so small calculation, you just do it. You get the equation. The equation is delta m prime, means each has a k mode, so k is there, okay, plus 2 is just change in variable, just please do it, fine. Prime means derivative with respect to eta. Okay, so you get this equation. You just change the variable from a to eta. You change the variable, you get this equation. Only thing is that there you only take the derivative. Here there is a change in variable, there is a h squared term comes, you would have divided by h squared, there is a 3h squared term comes. Okay. Now see this term. So here you have rho m. So if you take this term, so you have rho m bar delta m by 3h squared. But this, and there is a 4 pi g. Now my 3h square is a radiation dominated. So my 3h square is basically 8 pi g rho r bar. Fine. So I have, so this is, if I take this is 4 pi, so 4 pi g by 3h square is what I have. This is I divided by 2, so you have half 1 by rho r. Okay. So this term will give you half rho m by rho r bar into delta m. I just replace 3h square by 8 pi g rho r. Fine. Fine. Now you see that this term is very small. Because in the radiation dominated, rho m by rho r is very small, because rho r is actually dominating, the contribution rho m is very small. And not only that, the delta m is also very small. I am taking all these things, I am doing a linearized approximation, fine. So delta m is with the density contrast is very, very smaller than 1. So this term is actually very small. Okay, this term is actually very small. Okay, so this term is extremely small term. So I can ignore this term, and if I ignore this term, you can put this term 0. If I ignore this term, do a little integration I ask you to do, it's a one line integration, you will find that the delta m scale as log a. So in the sub-horizon scale, radiation dominated universe, delta m scale as log a. Remember, in the matter dominated, delta m scale as a. So in the radiation dominated, its growth is very, very suppressed. Fine. In the radiation dominated, the growth is really suppressed. Okay, it's actually compared to the matter, it's very, very suppressed. Fine. So the matter in the radiation, the growth is suppressed. Then in the matter dominated universe, it goes like a. Now you have to see that after matter dominated, it goes to the lambda CDM universe. The cosmological constant term starts dominating. So how it behaves in that universe. Okay. So from the radiation dominated, it goes like log a. Then it comes to the matter dominated, it goes like a. It starts getting increased. And now let's see that how it grows in the lambda CDM universe. Okay. Is it clear?
Here, what is the symbol in the second equation? Double dash?
This double dash, this is k. So these are each k modes. So I just put
okay,
this.
Okay. And dash means is a differentiation with respect to eta, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So now I try to I solve it in the matter dominated, I solve it in the radiation dominated. Let's solve it in the dark energy dominated, which is the most important dominated, because all the observation actually comes from the universe, which is dark energy dominated. We have a 30% matter and 70% dark energy. Okay. So again I am doing the matter perturbation. So CS square is 0. I have in the sub horizon scale, or I write lambda is smaller than dh, and in the lambda CDM universe. Okay, what is lambda CDM universe? My 3h square is 8 pi flat lambda CDM again. So I am always doing the flat universe. Okay, 8 pi g rho m naught a to the power minus 3 plus rho lambda naught. Okay, so this is the inverse. I am trying to see that the matter part, so delta m, how delta m evolves. Okay, so that is the goal. Okay, so again matter, so my CS square is 0. So this equation is now, so I just write delta m. I am just getting rid of k. Means remember that these are all in the defined k modes. Okay. So this equation we need to solve. Okay. Now to get, so as I said, always we have a decaying mode and a growing mode. That to get the decaying mode is very easy actually. Okay. So you have 3h square is 8 pi g, you have rho m plus rho lambda. Remember rho lambda is a constant. Take a derivative of this. So this is 6 h dot equal to 8 pi g rho m dot. Now I know that rho m dot plus 3h rho m is 0. So I just put rho m dot is minus 3h rho m. So I get 6 h dot is minus 8 pi g into 3h rho m. 3h and these get cancelled, so I have 2h dot. Okay, so I get h dot is minus 4 pi g rho m. Then my h double dot is minus 4 pi g rho m dot. Again I put rho m dot from here. So this gives you plus, this gives you plus 3h rho m. Fine. So I have h dot, I have h double dot, and using these two I can write a equation which is just like this, which is h double dot plus 2h h dot, you just check it, minus 4 pi g h rho m bar, or means these are all rho m bar, fine, because these are all background quantity. Okay, rho m bar equal to 0. Now can you just see this equation and can conclude something?
Second one is a differential equation in H, no?
Yeah. So just look at these two equations. Huh? Anybody? Just look at this equation, these two equations. Both are same equation, one is in delta m, one is in h. Delta m double dot, h double dot, 2h delta m, delta m dot, so 2h h dot, minus 4 pi g rho m bar, delta m h. So both equations are the same equation. Whatever the equation delta m satisfies, h also satisfies the same equation. Fine. So that means the delta m actually scales as h, and h is a decreasing function of time. It goes like 1 by t, roughly like that. Fine. So that the universe expands, so h decreases. So the decaying mode of the matter perturbation in the lambda CDM universe goes like 1 by h, the decaying mode. So this is the decaying mode because h decreases with time, fine, because always h decreases, a increases, so h decreases, fine, in a decelerating universe or accelerating universe, whatever. So this is actually a decaying mode. Okay, now usually you know in your differential equation, you know one solution, you can get the other solution, fine. So you have a particular integral, you can get the other integral. So that you can do. We can also do in a defined way. So this is a decaying mode, how get the growing mode, okay. So that also you can do quite easily. What we do to get that growing mode, that we define, so this is a decaying mode. To get the growing mode, we define a parameter y, which is delta m by h, okay, define a parameter y which is delta m by h, do a little bit of calculation, means write this equation in terms of y, fine. That you can do, take y dot del this thing, you put there, write things in terms of, change this equation in terms of y, okay. So that a part please do, I am not spend time in that. So if you do that and use to, while doing that you use all those relation, okay. So if you do that, you get a equation in the lambda CDM model, because I am going all through the lambda CDM model, you get an equation which is y dot h plus 2 h dot y dot plus 2 h square y dot will be 0. It is a very simple equation. Just change this y, put there, assume there is a lambda CDM universe, so all those h dot, all those things are related to that. Put this thing, 1, 2 line calculation, you get this equation, fine. So if I divided by h square, means if I divided by y dot and h, what I get over here, so y double dot by y dot plus 2 h dot by h plus 2h equal to 0, okay. I can integrate it very easily, I am doing it here. So this gives you log y dot plus 2 log h, and h is a dot by a, so this is plus 2 log a equal to a constant, fine. So this makes you that y dot plus h square is a constant, okay. So that makes you that your y dot is equal to some constant, let's say this constant I call a, so this is a by a square h square, okay. Now I can change the variable from t to, let's say, a, so I can always do that, change the d dt, means dy dt is dy dA into dA dt, fine, that I can do. So dA dt is a dot is a into h, so this is ah, okay. So I put it over here, so what I get from here, that dy dA is 1 by a cube h cube. So your y is some integration, say 0 some, at some, from some time you do it, let's say from some ai to some a, okay, is a by a cube h cube into dA. Now I can do this integration very easily because my h is given by this, is just a function of a, okay. I divide everything by h naught square, 3h naught square, I get a omega m naught, omega lambda naught. So this equation is just a function of a with omega m naught and omega lambda naught. I can put it over here, the function of a, even if not by hand, I can do numerically very easily, okay. So I get y, and then my delta m is y into h. Okay, so my delta m goes like, just if I do like y is this, so my delta m is now y into h. So this equation will be just h, some constant a into h into integration of this part. This part I can easily do because my h is given. Okay, and h is given with respect to all omega m naught and all those things, fine. How can I calculate this constant? Because before lambda CDM, I have the matter domination, and matter domination I solved that my delta goes as, or growth mode going like A. So I take that initial condition to fix that constant A. Okay, let's say I integrate it from matter domination to till today. So in the matter domination, my y goes as, this delta m goes as A that I just solved. Okay, so taking that initial condition, I can calculate that constant. Okay, so in your lambda CDM universe, if you have a lambda CDM, dark energy I am not doing, but if you have any other arbitrary dark energy, you have to solve this equation numerically. Here also you just have to do this integration numerically. Okay, but otherwise in the lambda CDM universe, this is given by some constant into h, some, say I integrated, let's say from decoupling to at some time A dA by AH whole cube. Okay, and if you plot this thing, with this behavior of A, if you integrate it and you plot this to behavior of A, you will find that the delta m goes increasing, and at some point when the dark energy domination starts coming, it will get a little bit suppressed. So it will just, from this linear thing, it will just a little bit suppressed. Because that we can understand, because as the universe is getting acceleration, from the deceleration expansion it taking the acceleration expansion, so the friction term becomes more powerful, so the growth gets a little bit suppressed. Okay, so the delta m in the lambda CDM, so this is actually the most important thing for lambda CDM, it is this. Otherwise for any arbitrary dark energy I can solve it, okay, by numerically. But if you have a lambda CDM, if this thing delta m h is given by that, so, and this equation, you see that this equation doesn't depend upon the k dependent. So for all modes it goes like the same way. Okay, only thing that the k dependence comes, the initial fluctuation that you have, that's some k dependent that comes into it. Okay, so all scales goes like this, and from here I can calculate everything, whatever the power spectrum that Alex was mentioning, the 2-point function, which is actually the 2-point function you calculate from this. So all those things depend upon this fact, okay, at some redshift. Now I will do now one thing, one important thing. So now from here also you can calculate the gravitational potential, because your gravitational potential always goes like this. The gravitational potential goes like this. So this is actually minus k square phi. Now I have delta m, I have solved, I can calculate the gravitational potential, and here gravitational potential is no longer a constant, because I already saw that matter domination is remain constant, but here it's no longer constant, you will see that it decays. Okay, and that is understandable because initially you have a matter which is attractive gravity, so it creates a gravitational potential, but as the lambda CDM starts coming into play, it's a repulsive gravity, so the gravitational potential just decays. Okay, so the depth becomes shallower, fine. So that's why, so that you can easily calculate from here. So you just put delta m over here, there is a squared term over here and all those things. This is 1 by a cube, so this is 1 by a, so you get a gravitational potential. Okay. So what there is, I just discussed one important observable quantity, which in most of the observation, whether it's weak lensing or redshift space distortion, we actually calculate that observable. Okay, so that observable I discuss now. Okay, so if you remember all the equation, from the equation that I derived all those things, I derived this thing. So there is the equation, the continuity equation, there is a Poisson Euler equation, and there is a Poisson equation. From there I derived this equation, fine. So if you go to those equations, So if you go to the first equation with the continuity equation, so that equation was, if you remember, this was this 1 by A, divergence of V was 0. So this was the continuity equation. If you remember, in the Newtonian perturbation, non-relativistic limit, we got this equation. Okay, taking the linear only, that get rid of all the second order term. Yesterday we did this equation. Fine. So if you go to the Fourier mode, so this is delta k dot plus 1 by A I k V k is 0. So what you get is your V k is minus I by k A into delta k dot. Okay. Now see what is your delta k dot, means what is your delta k. Remember that so I am doing it for the matter, for the matter. So my delta k, which is a both function of the scale factor or redshift or time, these are equivalent, and the scale, okay. But as I said, in all through, I checked, I showed that for matter, all scales evolve the same way. Because in this equation, the k dependence drops. So all scales evolve the same way. Okay. So whatever the scale dependent comes, it comes from the initial scale dependence that comes through inflation or other processes that can give you a primordial fluctuation. Okay. So this delta k, I can now write some delta k, which is a function of k, which is some primordial value, and a growth function. This can be A for the matter domination, radiation domination, this is just log A, matter domination, this is A, dark energy domination, this is just I solved. Because the k dependence, all this equation doesn't have a k dependence. So whatever the k dependence it has initial the k dependence, and that remains the same. Because no equation change your k dependence, because there is no k dependence term. Is it clear? I have some initial fluctuation that I have produced, which has some k dependence. Then I am evolving it through different epoch. For the timing, I am evolving it in a sub-horizon scale. And all these epoch, I checked that my equation doesn't depend upon k. It just depend upon time or scale factor or whatever. So whatever the k dependence it has initially, that k dependence will go through. That will not change. Fine. So I can write any time the delta Ka as a k dependence that comes from the initial, whatever way we put the initial condition, and there is a dependence that we solve by this equation, because this equation never have a k dependence. And this growth is the growth that I solve, the growing mode. In the radiation it's a log A, in the matter it's A, and the dark energy domination is like this. Huh?
So this delta M is independent of K. This is true only in Newtonian limit.
Which one? No, matter is all limit. Because matter there is no Cs square, nowhere.
In Newtonian limit, but if we take full general relativity calculations, then
This there it remains constant. I mean this, because the Cs square is just drops out from matter. Cs square, there is no Cs square. If you have those equations, the pressure perturbation equation only comes from here. The pressure, the k dependence comes from the pressure perturbation. So the matter, initially early time there is no matter, there is only radiation dependent. But even if I go to the super Horizon scale, for the matter also it doesn't depend. The k dependence just drops out. Means I am not talking about baryon, because baryon has some problem, it has coupled with the photon and something. But I am just only thinking about pure matter, which is the pressure equal to 0. So for pressure equal to 0, the Cs square is always drops out. Okay. So here now if I have the delta K dot, which is some delta K, P, K, and this D prime dot A, and I replace this now again by this, so this comes out to be D dot plus D plus by D plus and delta K AK. So this term I can write is as minus I by K A delta K AK D plus dot by D plus. Okay. Now I define one quantity which called the growth rate, which is F which is d log d plus by d log a. I define a quantity. Okay, this is sometimes called the growth rate or growth function, whatever you call. In Scott Doddleson call it growth function. Okay. So if I put that thing, so this is d log a. So I change the variable, calculate the d dot, which is the time derivative. These things comes out to be, if I put it, this part, the f, these things comes out to be minus I k a delta k a k into f a. Oh, there is the h, sorry, there is the h. Okay. So this velocity perturbation is given by this quantity. So I just write it again here. This is minus I, I by k. F, where my f okay. Now this is a very important relation. If you remember when Alex was telling about redshift space distortion, because you have a redshift space, when you measure there is a Hubble flow, there is a redshift due to that. But if there is a peculiar velocity along the line of sight, then there is an extra redshift that you get, and that can give you a distorted redshift. Okay, and that if you can measure the redshift space distortion, then you can actually measure, it can actually map this peculiar velocity. So this is the peculiar velocity, is the velocity which is beyond the Hubble flow. So you have a Hubble velocity, and then there is a peculiar velocity that comes due to the change in the co-moving coordinates. Okay, and so for the Hubble velocity you get a redshift, there is a normal redshift, and if there is a peculiar velocity you also get here correction in the redshift, which actually make, if you see any object in the redshift space, it makes a deformation in that. Okay, that deformation is basically due to this peculiar velocity. So if you just calculate all those redshift space distortion, you can calculate Vk, and usually we measure things very close to us, means we still don't have surveys which are very deep surveys. So most of the structure that you measure, we measure at the very present day, very close to the present day. So this, so it is very, is for any practical purpose, it is important, it is fine that you measure this f at the very present time. The value is very, very close to the present time. Okay. So if you calculate f very close to the present time in a lambda CDM dominated universe, you will see that this, so you remember my f depend on d plus depend upon this depend upon h, and h depend upon, in a lambda CDM universe, omega m naught plus omega lambda naught, but flat model omega m naught plus omega lambda naught is 1, so only one parameter is there, either omega m naught or omega lambda naught. So if I take omega m naught, omega lambda naught is 1 minus omega m naught. Okay, so this h has only free parameter is omega m naught. So if I calculate delta m, that is d plus, then I calculate d plus. This will depend upon parameter, means in the cosmological parameter is omega m, and if I do it at present day, okay, because these are all measured at the very close to present day, it just goes like this way. So that at omega m equal to 1, this becomes 1. And you can show that this becomes 1 because omega m is 1, is fully matter dominated. This goes as A. If this goes as A, you can show that this goes as just 1. Okay. So this F just goes as this, and it is a very good, is Weinberg showed previously, but later on one can do. It's a very good fit that this F in a lambda CDM universe is omega m to the power 0.6. It's a very good fit of this thing. Good fit. Okay. So now if I have this thing, I measure this, I measure F, then I can get an idea about omega m. Okay. What it can change, that if I have a universe which is not exactly lambda CDM, if it is not exactly lambda CDM, I have to solve this. Maybe the solution is not like this, but I can solve this equation numerically. I get again a delta m. Okay. But now there will be no 0.6. Let's say I put this parameter not 0.6, but let's say some gamma, arbitrary parameter. Okay. Let's say gamma for arbitrary parameter. And then I measure this. Then I have a parameter space which related to omega m and gamma. Okay. This gamma will depend upon whatever the other equation of state I have used for the lambda CDM. So measuring this V, I can then constant the parameter space between omega m and that other equation of state. Okay. So that's the way we do. So most of the measurement, you can see that people give this from the redshift space distortion, people give that parameter space or weak lengthening or whatever, they give a parameter space, either they constant this or they constant this and a gamma which is depending upon the equation of state that you have. Okay. So that one of the most important measurement people do, just from the redshift space distortion, they map the peculiar velocity field, and just mapping the peculiar velocity field they can get an idea of F, and once you get an idea of F you can actually calculate the cosmological parameters. Okay. So this is the matter part fully. So I have the sub-horizon scale, matter behave like log A, radiation, then in matter they behave like A, and in the dark energy domination lambda CDTM they behave like that, and once it behaves like that I can actually get a growth factor which is actually this related to the peculiar velocity field, and this is a good fit. So measuring this F I can constant this omega m. Okay. So that's fine. So I just finished, but can I do it at what time I started? Yeah, so I have some time left, no? Oh, okay. So that's fine. I have another, how much? So I just have time left. Okay. Okay, so I just do this thing and so any question from this part?
What is the observable quantity? This factor F.
This factor F. Okay, so that you measure from this peculiar velocity, that you measure from the redshift space distortion. Okay. But there is a problem that, okay, means because actually the problem with exact direct measurement F is that we usually see when you are doing this thing, this is omega m, this consists both the dark matter part and the barium in the visible part, fine. But when you do this observation, we cannot see the dark matter, fine. We only see the visible part. Okay. So the Alex was mentioning that you only see the visible matter power spectrum, fine. But when you calculate this, it contains the both dark matter and visible matter, fine. So this has the gravitational field from the whole matter sector. Okay. But when you measure anything, we measure this from the only the visible part. Okay. But we have to get the information from the full part, fine. So that's the thing that is related called the bias, that how the visible part of the galaxy they traces the invisible part of the dark matter. So how, if you know the galaxy power spectrum, how you can get the dark matter power spectrum. So that is related to what is called a parameter called the bias parameter. Now this bias is always a bit problematic, means how to model the bias. So it depends upon a lot of things, lot of astrophysics. But so when you do these things, so one is sometimes it's not very easy that you calculate, you have a measurement from him, this F, and you directly get some idea about the dark energy equation of stator omega, because there is a bias involved in the measurement, or from the observation to the getting to the theoretical thing. But one good part is that if you are in the linear regime, okay, so if you do the calculation in the linear regime, then these things, the galaxy and the matter, the dark matter part, they are related with some bias sometimes called the linear bias. So you can take a linear bias thing, and in that linear bias regime, if you have a linear bias regime, then what means maybe Alex will discuss, what one can measure is not f, but some quantity which is sometimes called the f sigmoid. So one can show that this f sigmoid, what is sigmoid? Sigmoid is the moment, the second moment of a part, means if a spherical over density of size 8 H inverse megaparsec. So sigma, you know, the standard deviation. So if you have a fluctuation and you take a spherical blob of 8 H inverse megaparsec, so sigmoid is actually the corresponding the moment for that, the second one, standard deviation with that thing. Okay. So if you calculate this, one can show that as far as you can use a linear bias, this function, this combination becomes bias independent. So now one can actually calculate this or measure this and calculate this and get more about the cosmology, because this thing becomes a independent of bias in the linear bias regime. Fine. So that part for the time being, it will take a long time to discuss. So I will not use that thing. But otherwise, just from direct observation, means to getting from this to this to this, there is a bias involved. So that part is not fully very straightforward. Okay, we have this theory from here, but there is a bias factor is there. But if you calculate this f sigma 8, this factor doesn't take care of the bias. Okay. So this is sometimes you call the normalization also. You can normalize the power spectrum with sigma 8 normalization. Okay. So now what I will do, okay, so what I do now, so we have done the sub-horizon scale. Okay, so your lambda is smaller than dH. Okay, so the sub-horizon scale, we did the Newtonian approximation. What we learned is that the radiation does not grow. Any perturbation in the radiation, it does not grow. The matter in the radiation domination grows as log A. This in the matter domination grows as A, and in the lambda CDM, okay, this grows as proportional to H integration dA by AH cube. Fine. So these three we checked. Fine. Okay. So these we checked that the radiation, always the sub-horizon scale is basically always smaller than the Jeans length. So it will always oscillate, and you take so it doesn't grow, and you take a lot of average over a lot of oscillation, it just vanishes. Right? Matter, radiation dominated, it just goes as log A. In the matter domination, it grows as A, it starts growing more, and again when it comes to the lambda CDM domination or any other dark energy, so lambda CDM domination, it just goes like this. Fine. So gravitational potential here is a constant, and here it decays. Fine. So for that, do the full. Now one has to do what happens in the super horizon scale. So the scale for the lambda is greater than dh. Okay, and as I said, in that scale I have to take care of the full general relativity calculation. Okay, so I will do tomorrow because a little bit the general relativity calculation, because when you take baryons, so at some level till decoupling baryons are coupled with the radiation, and radiation is a relativistic component, so I have to take, for that part I have to take a relativistic calculation. Okay, so that I will do tomorrow. Today I just do a very back of the envelope calculation, because otherwise I have to, means one has to do all the full GR calculation, which takes a lot of time. So we will do a very back of the envelope calculation to show that how means the perturbation, any fluctuation either in rho m or rho r, so how they behave in the super horizon scale, in the radiation dominated or matter dominated. And then if I know those things, I can always calculate how the phi evolves, because the Poisson equation, it is related the phi and the delta. Fine. So this is the thing we do. So super horizon. So so lambda is greater than dh. Okay. So let's say that I have a background universe, flat background universe, and my 3h naught square, means this is the background Hubble parameter, goes like 8 pi g rho naught. Okay, a flat background universe, so my 3h square goes like 8 pi g rho naught. Fine. Now in this background universe, I put a spherical blob of slightly higher over density. So I have in this background, I put a spherical blob which is rho 0 plus some delta rho. Okay. Now we know from Gauss theorem that whatever the gravity inside, the outside will not matter. Fine. So outside, the inside, if I just consider, it is a sphere, so it will just go like a closed universe. Fine. So it I write down. So this 3h1 square minus 1 or 3 by s square goes like 8 pi g rho 0 plus delta 0. Oh, this is plus, sorry. That side minus, this is plus. Okay, so this goes like this. So K is 1 inverse, K1 inverse is just goes like this one. Okay. So inside is just a spherical blob, so it is just goes like a K equal to plus 1, fine. Now I compare these two things. So here this is rho naught, and here this is rho naught plus delta rho. And I compare these two things when their expansions are same. That can happen because whatever the extra expansion you can have here, means the extra thing delta rho naught you have here, that can be compensated by this 3 by s square.
K is one inside the sphere.
Yeah, it's a sphere. I mean, if you just go to a closed universe, so this is just like a closed universe, fine. The outside doesn't matter inside.
That means you are taking FL and W, no?
Yeah, both
Okay.
FW, both FW. Okay. It's a very back of the envelope calculation, but the beauty is that when you do the full perturbative calculation, you will get the exact result. Fine. So now if I compare this, when H0 equal to H1, okay, so I just take one to another, means you take the negative. So what I get is 8 pi g by 3 rho naught minus plus delta rho naught by rho naught is 1 by s square. Fine. Okay. So from here, one can write that your 8 pi g by 3 delta rho naught is 1 by, oh sorry, this is A1 square, fine, this is A1 square. So this is basically A naught dot by A naught, and this is A1 dot by A1. In general, they are not same, fine. So this is A1 square. I divide both by rho naught. So this is rho naught. Now that is actually density contrast, fine, because this delta rho naught by rho naught is basically the density contrast, that the thing that we define, fine. So this is your density contrast is actually scales as 1 by rho naught A1 square, fine. Now in general, if H0 equal to H1, it may not be that A0 equal to A1, in general, fine. In general, if H0 equal to A1 means A naught dot by A naught is A1 dot by A1, it may not be that they are equal, they will be different by a constant factor. Huh? Which one? This one?
What is A1?
A1 is the scale factor. No, there is a K factor, you remember that you have a curvature scale, there is a curvature 1 by length square thing is there. I put that is your 1. So these are all done with that there is a K, there is a curvature that is involved there, I put that is equal to 1. That is standard, means you have here, no? So you have here 3h square is 8 pi g rho 3k by s square, fine. This is your equation. This k has a dimension which is 1 by length square, fine. So that k I put 1, fine. So there is a dimension that is there, is 1 by length square, always.
But why we are taking k is equal to 1? So what is the physical significance?
No, this is a sphere, it's always k equal to 1.
Yeah, that is right. But why we are choosing that case only, rather than k equal to minus open universe or?
No, because if you put an open universe, how you create a word density, that is not a closed word density. There is a word density that is at some point you cannot localize the word density. The word density is there all through your universe. This is an infinite boundary. You create a word density, small word density which is there in the background of the homogeneous background. So at some point you create a word density. If you create a k equal to minus 1, that word density you cannot localize at some point. So in general, your A dot by A naught, by A1 by A naught, there, if it is same, A dot, A0 and A1 are related by a constant, so it may not be the same. But if this delta rho naught is very, very small, I can in that limit can make an approximation that this A1 is approximately equal to A naught. It is an approximation. Okay. Knowing that my delta rho naught is very, very smaller than rho naught. Okay. So I can keep this A naught, A1 to A naught square. Now you see that if I have this thing, then my delta in the radiation dominated, this goes like 1 by A4. So this goes like 1 by S square. So this goes like S square in the radiation dominated. And in the matter dominated, this goes like 1 by A cube. So this goes like 1 by A. So this goes as A in the matter dominated. So in the super horizon scale, roughly the delta in the radiation dominated goes like S square, and delta in the matter dominated goes like A. And as I said, these are very, very back of the envelope calculation. But the amazing thing is that if I do all the calculation fully, I get the same result. Huh? I want to try to get this thing. that how delta evolves in the super horizon scale in the radiation and matter dominated universe, not solving the full Einstein's equation. I have not shifted. I just said there is a two scale factor, one is inside, one is outside. Their expansion rates are same when I am comparing. If the expansion rate are same, then it's not necessarily that A0 and A1 will be the same. Not necessarily. Okay? Because this is log A0 equal to log A1 plus some a constant. So A0 and A1 will be related by a constant. But if this delta rho is very, very smaller than the background, then I can approximate they are roughly equal. They don't change, vary that much.
Sir,
That is my only.
our spherical blob is of the size of the Hubble radius. That's what we are saying.
Which,
The spherical blob we are putting in over density.
this?
Yes.
Yeah, size of the Hubble
We
radius,
did
why?
not get the link between the lambda greater than dh and our assumption of an over density.
No, because see, I am doing, so the assumption of the over density, because super horizon scale is the fact that I am taking, means here, as I said, okay, so here I am just calculating the over density just from the Einstein's equation, nothing else.
Yeah, Einstein.
So this Einstein's equation validates the GR equation, so I am just calculating it from here. You can say that my over density is now of the size of delta H and I can do that. So that is a fine. But I am not calculating that thing that I did in the Newtonian thing, that I make a Newtonian approximation from the fluid and I calculate delta from there. I am calculating delta directly from the Einstein's equation. Means, again I am saying this is a very, very back of the envelope calculation. It's not the full calculation, but it gives a behavior which is exactly the behavior that we get.
And how you can put this, means what is the argument behind this A1 very, means where is approximately as A0, A0?
Is if you have two places, your Hubble parameters are the same, your energy density here and here, there is a very small difference. So obviously the scale factor can be, if they can change, they can vary, but the variation is very small. So for practical purpose, I keep this as the same as this.
Okay, because
This is the order of calculation. I mean, this is not exact calculation, again I am saying. But the important factor is that I get delta as A square, I delta as A, both in the radiation and the matter domination. So that I get. So what I get from here, for matter domination, delta super horizon scale remains A, delta in the radiation dominated remains log A, matter domination it remains A. So in the super horizon scale, both matter and radiation, means in the sub-Hubble and super-Hubble, it always remains A, radiation dominated remains log A, and this remains A. Sub-horizon scale, radiation doesn't grow, but the sub-horizon scale, it can have a growth of A square. Okay? But now let's see how the gravitational potential goes now. So if you remember the gravitational potential, this gives this is the gravitational potential. So if you take this in the radiation dominated case, so in the radiation dominated case, phi minus k square phi is proportional to A square, rho goes as 1 by A4 and delta goes as A square. So this is a constant. In the matter domination case, minus k square phi goes as A square, rho goes as 1 by A cube, delta goes as A, so this is also a constant. So the gravitational potential in the super horizon scale, it's a constant, radiation, it's a constant, matter domination. As it comes in the matter domination case in the sub-horizon, it also remains a constant. We will try to show that in the radiation dominated, it is actually oscillate. Only thing, both remains constant, but the full relativistic calculation shows that there is a suppression of factor 9 by 10. So this constant and this constant has a suppression from here to here, it has a suppression of a factor 9 by 10. So the gravitational potential in the radiation dominated remains a constant, super horizon scale, it remains a constant. As it enters to the matter domination regime, it also remains a constant, but it's suppressed by a small factor 9/10. So if you have, so now if I calculate phi with k, okay, or sorry, phi with a, if you have a scale where k is super Hubble, okay, so the phi remains constant, and if this is a equal, so phi remains constant, and then it also remains constant. And this suppression is 9/10. If these scales are super Hubble, like k is roughly of the order of 0.001, corresponding the momentum, 0.001 h inverse megaparsec inverse. So yeah, so this is 0.00, forget about h. So this is just megaparsec inverse. If I take roughly, so this goes, so phi remains a constant, then as it goes to the radiation to matter, it decreases slightly, and this remains there. Now if you have a slightly, these are bigger scale, if you have a slightly, now you have some scale which can enter, bigger scale which will enter in the matter domination regime, and the smaller scale will enter in the radiation domination regime, fine. So if you have a scale which are bigger, so that they enter in the matter domination regime, so they will behave like that. Because they are super horizon, they behave like that. When it enters to the sub horizon, they also behave like that. Because the matter domination, they also remains a constant. Okay? But if you have some scales which are a little bit smaller, so that they enter in the sub Hubble in the radiation dominated, then when in the radiation, so this remains constant, but as it enters the sub Hubble in the radiation dominated, one can show that it actually oscillate a little bit. Okay? So this is the evolution of phi that happens. So what we studied is that till now, that the super horizon scale delta this goes like this, phi goes like this, in the matter domination phi goes like this, as delta goes like this, matter dominated it goes like this, lambda CDM it goes like this, phi here goes like a constant, phi here is decay. I have not calculated what is the phi here, is actually oscillate, okay, because there is a pressure, so that pressure makes things to oscillate, okay. So that if possible we'll do, okay. So what the picture is roughly is that if you create some perturbation initially in the gravitational potential, some perturbation, let's say by inflation, okay, so you create some initial perturbation, primordial, some k, okay, with some a or whatever. So you create some initial perturbation. One can actually show that during the inflation at some point time very quickly they go outside the horizon and they become frozen, so they don't evolve, so become constant, okay. Inflation makes them like that. So you have some initial perturbation that you create, the phi p, then it evolves after the inflation ends, it evolves two way, it evolves with a k dependence and it evolves with a dependence. The a dependence evolves with the growth factor, because as you see that everything is dependent upon that, so every phi a dependence depend upon this combination, and this combination depend upon delta growth factor, okay. So the k dependence of phi depends upon the a dependence of phi, the time dependence depend upon this growth factor, okay. So always depend upon this growth factor. The k dependence, it can be depending upon what is the scale, whether they are entering each scale in the matter domination or in the radiation domination. Matter domination remains constant, that you showed always, it remains the constant, but the radiation domination, they can actually fluctuate, because radiation has a pressure, they have a fluctuate. So what the final thing we have, that there is the initial power spectrum that you have, some k dependence, then something called the transfer function, This actually takes care of that after after the inflation, whatever the physics that can change is K dependence. One of the physics is basically coming from the radiation. Or baryon fluid, baryon and photon, they are coupled, and at that time there is all these fluctuations are there, fine, and that oscillations that happen. So there is a K dependence that is called the transfer function that is there, that takes care all your physics in the sub-horizon scale where there is a pressure, and the pressure can take care and change your K dependence, fine. And the A dependence or the time dependence, it always comes through this equation, and this equation depend upon delta, and delta has this growth factor or the growing mode. So the A dependence comes through this delta square A. Okay. So the final phi that we see today, Ka, it actually looks like this. This is proportional to actually. Okay. So it's proportional to this. So it has a phi p, the primordial power spectrum that is created by inflation, and that power spectrum then processed two way. One is by the growth factor, the growing mode of your perturbation at different epoch, and your K dependence, what is called this transfer function, that also happens that when depending upon size of the each mode, when they are entering the the inside the horizon, whether they are entering in the radiation dominated or whether they are entering in the matter domination. Depending upon that, there will be some K dependence. So there will be a K dependence from here, or if we have only radiation dominated, we can see that there is other K dependent that make it oscillate and all those things, right? So that is the full power spectrum. So this is phi. So you can call it the full power spectrum. This is the power spectrum of this phi. Okay. So this actually depends upon that. So ultimately we measure this pK. Okay. We measure this pK, and that pK has the information for this inflation, the initial power spectrum. It has information to delta, this dA, different cosmological parameter, and it can have information through this Tk in the astrophysical different process, that how the baryons and photons they are coupled, all those Thomson scattering or all those parameters that is there that make them acoustic oscillation. So that all those astrophysical things are there embedded in the Tk. Okay. So there are a lot of fitting function of Tk. You can solve to get this Tk, you have to, for the full thing, you have to solve the full Boltzmann equation, but otherwise there are a lot of fitting function for Tk that people have given. So they are pretty good. May not for the very accurate observation, but they are pretty good for most of the purposes, fine. So this is roughly like this. So tomorrow, if what I will try to do that how in the GR calculation how things happen, so that I can actually can motivate you the shape of the power spectrum. Okay.
How it becomes, means the square quadratic T square and D square, one can prove it, no? This
No,
Tk,
what you want to prove? So you have a power spectrum that is created initially.
yeah, that is right. Yeah.
Now this power spectrum will get processed by different physics.
Yeah.
Now this power spectrum has a K dependence,
Yeah.
so that K dependence can get processed, and this power spectrum, this phi, then also get changed by expansion of the universe. How it change the expansion of the universe, that part is there. The growth, how this delta grows, because as the delta grows, your phi gets changed.
No, but why square appears, no?
No, this is pk, fine. So you get
T square, no?
No, this is delta, fine, and then when you calculate the 2-point correlation, you do delta, fine. So that gives you the k square, the square term.
Okay.
So these you get phi or delta something, and then you calculate the 2-point correlation.
Okay.
The 2-point correlation, then the 2-point correlation gives you the square form.
Oh, yeah, that's
The power spectrum is you calculate from the 2-point correlation function. I think that thing Alex has mentioned, fine. The 2-point correlator or those things.
Yes, regarding shear.
Regarding shear, fine. So the same thing, the correlator are the same, definitions are the same. Okay, so I'll just stop here now. So any question you can ask.
How did we say that radiation does not grow in some?
No, that I showed, no, that again, I showed that in the radiation dominated, I am doing it, this is sub-horizon scale. Sub-horizon scale, that means you are smaller than DH, and the radiation dominated, your gene scale is just same as DH. So lambda is smaller than DH means lambda is smaller than lambda J, and any scale which is smaller than the gene scale will never grow, it will just oscillate. So if you can solve the full equation, no problem, and you see that it doesn't grow, it oscillates, but you don't have to solve it. You can actually physically motivate that it actually not grow. Because your gene scale, any scale will be smaller than the gene scale, because the gene scale and DH is the same. And you are doing the sub-horizon scale, for any scale is smaller than the DH. So obviously they will be smaller than the gene scale.
So calculation of delta in the super horizon scale, is it specific to the assumed nature or spherical nature of?
No. This is just a back of the. Ultimately, you have to calculate you have to write the metric perturbation, you have to write down the energy momentum tensor perturbation, you have to write the full delta G nu mu equal to delta T nu mu, and also the energy momentum conservation equation, the full energy momentum conservation equation. You write everything together, you solve it, and then you get. But the beauty is that you get the same result. So this is just a back of the envelope calculation, just to motivate that, see that this actually means the rough behavior is this.
What I'm asking is that the spherical nature of the over density, does it have anything to do with the result?
No. That's what I'm saying. It's not. This is the general result. This I just use it to very easily I can show it that, but it's a general result.
Here you brought in the 5 versus A.
Here.
Super horizon scale. So you see that at equality there is a decrease.
Yeah.
How do you physically explain that? There is like small.
There is a small suppression. This just comes from the matter to radiation. Okay. From the solution, this is just come exactly the 9/10 that factor comes, because this 9/10 factor comes is just this 2/3 is there when you have in the matter domination it comes like A goes like T to the power 2/3, it just have 1/2, there is some square terms comes, and then it gives a term which is by 9/10. But I don't think there is any physical thing is there. It's just it happens to be that the numbers are such that it actually get a 9/10 suppression. With the 9/10 suppression, you cannot physically motivate actually with a 9/10 number. Okay, so it's very difficult. It's just fact that you put everything together and you put A scales as A to the power 2/3 in the matter domination, A scales as A to T to the power half in the radiation domination, you put everything, you calculate the DH, the Hubble radius, the number such that it actually comes out to be some 9/10 number. If possible, I try to do it tomorrow, okay? But I don't think there is any physical thing that it actually give you the 9/10 number.
So 9/10 is a number that comes closest to being 1.
Yeah, 9 means, that's fine, but the number comes 9/10 is just how all those things place together. I cannot understand, I remember that. I don't think there is any physical thing actually. Okay, so now we have this discussion session. I will call Alex, and then you can ask questions for Alex thing and all. And Alex maybe show you some little bit about some simulation, MCMC kind of thing. So I'll just call him. Fine.